Hello and welcome to this day in history for January 23rd. January 23rd is the 23rd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 342 days remaining until the end of the year, except for leap years when there's 343 days remaining to the end of the year. You might notice a little bit different setting today. It's overcast and raining, which has affected the quality of light. So I've moved over to a window where the light is better. And we have a different background. And the next thing I want to say is that most importantly to me today, January 23rd, is my dad's birthday. Since this video does go out to the whole wide world, I'm not going to say how old he is or what year he was born, but happy birthday, Daddy. I've been looking forward to saying happy birthday to you, and I will be calling you also, so I wouldn't be here without you. And now on with the rest of the video. This week we're looking at words that defy that old rule of I before E except after C, or the sound of long A as in neighbor or way. And today's word is facies. It's a noun that means general appearance. In medicine, it refers to a distinctive appearance associated with a pathological condition. And in geology, it refers to a body of rock with specific characteristics. Before we go on, I'd like to remind you that links to my research are included in the show notes. Encourage you to click that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. And with that, we're going to start with the year 393, when I guess it must have been Take Your Kid to Work Day. On January 23rd, year 393, when the Roman Emperor Theodosius I proclaimed his 8-year-old son Honorius co-emperor on January 23rd, 393. I found that amusing. I mean, it probably wasn't so amusing back in the day, but I saw that. Take Your Kid to Work Day. My daddy took me to work. In 1556, about an 8 to 8.3 magnitude earthquake struck in Shaanxi, China. Now, that's not the strongest quake ever seen, but it's pretty doggone strong, and it hit a densely populated area. It knocked down a lot of buildings, every building in some villages, and killed more than half the population, possibly as many as 830,000 people altogether, making it the deadliest earthquake of all time and considered the worst disaster in history, all the way back in the year 1556. In 1849, Elizabeth Blackwell was awarded her MD by the Geneva Medical College of Geneva, New York, becoming the United States' first female doctor. That was not an easy road for her. They resisted admitting her to the college for a while and finally put it to a vote of the students. They voted to allow her, more as a joke. But by golly, she came, stood through all that resistance, got her MD, and battled more resistance out in her practice. But she did it. She did it. In 1920, the Netherlands refused to surrender the exiled Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany to the Allies. Now, we've talked about the Lend-Lease program before, and the famous aviator Charles Lindbergh disagreed with this policy. And he also felt strongly that the U.S. should negotiate a neutrality pact with Hitler. He testified thusly before Congress on this day in 1941. Even if anyone else had thought that was a good idea and had successfully completed such a negotiation, history has shown that Hitler was not a good and faithful business partner. He went back on agreements. Lindbergh's insistence in these matters dimmed his popularity for over a dozen years, but he was able to finally overcome that unpopularity. On January 23rd, 1957, the Wham-O Toy Company produced their first Frisbees. Many of you probably already know that the story of the Frisbee goes back to the Frisbee Pie Company, which was formed in 1871. Students from the nearby universities like to throw those empty pie tins back and forth. In 1948, a couple of guys developed a plastic version they called the Flying Saucer that flew better than the pie plates. Those two guys parted company, and one of them, Frederick Morrison, further developed the Flying Saucer, renamed it the Pluto Platter, and sold it to Wham-O in 1955. Wham-O, who also had made the hula hoop, the Super Ball, the water wiggle, changed the name of the Pluto Platter to the Frisbee disc after the original pie company. And the rest, as they say, is history. Nowadays, at least 60 manufacturers make flying discs, but the official Frisbee brand is owned by Mattel toy manufacturers who bought it from Wham-O in 1994. In 1964, the 24th Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibiting the use of poll taxes in national elections was ratified. On January 23, 1968, the USS Pueblo, a Navy intelligence vessel, was captured by North Korea. Things got ugly. The North Koreans tortured and browbeat the Americans who resisted. Eventually, their release was negotiated, and 11 months later, the 82 crew members were released, and the heroes got home in time for Christmas. Now for some wrestling news, as we might say it around where I grew up, wrestling. On January 23rd, 1974, a fella y'all might have heard of him, big old fella named Hulk Hogan, beat the wrestler known as Iron Sheik to win his first World Wrestling Federation title, that's WWF title, at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Now, Madison Square Garden, in case you didn't know, is neither a garden nor is it square. But that's a story for another time. On January 23, 1986, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted its first members, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, James Brown, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Fats Domino, the Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Elvis Presley. In our next story, I'm going to say hooray for dash cams. Garrison County, Texas County Constable had pulled over a car for a traffic violation. And for some reason, he was asking the occupants to open the trunk of the car. All three of them jumped out of the car, attacked the officer, and murdered him. But he had a dash cam, so it was all caught on tape. And so it is that on January 23, 1991, all three of the individuals involved in this crime were convicted for it. Since then, video cameras have become commonplace, standard equipment in police cars, on police bodies, on people's front doors, all over the place. I don't know why anybody commits a crime. There's bound to be a camera rolling somewhere. On January 23, 1992, President George Herbert Walker Bush held a White House reception to honor the U.S. women's soccer team for winning their recent World Cup match. In 1997, Madeline Albright became the first woman Secretary of State, becoming the highest-ranking female official in U.S. history. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share this video. And one more time, I want to say happy birthday, Daddy. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. I don't know how all that's going to go together, or if it's even going to make it to the video. We'll just see. Probably cut all that out. That'll all be laying on the cutting room floor. So I'll just do that whole thing over. Where were we? Thank you, mailbox. Give it a pause after you clear your throat. That might not make it into the video. We'll see. Oh, that little birdie. I think I have birdies nesting in my shrubs out front. And that's not the way that goes. Okay, let's try that again. the first president to travel America. Changing it up.